into the end zone, and we'll forget that you lie and say ridiculous things.
It's another reminder, though, that it's really hard to be a good simp. Sometimes when you simp, you do it with the biggest platform available to you to show your undying affection, idolatry for, let's say, a star quarterback. But then you realize you're just drawing more attention to the fact that the simping sometimes is not at all justified.
I'm never going to be comfortable with saying on air. We're always going to feel like we've gone too far.
Well, I've been informed that it may be problematic for me to use that phrase because gender.
Not in the way that you just used it. Not in the way.
But in this way, I feel like you're threading that needle, much like Aaron Rodgers threading that needle.
See, the thing about the difference between you and Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, he threads the needle. He does things that look risky in a way that don't result in very many risk at all. And then he ends up with touchdowns. And so you threw this pass. The result of this pass, best case scenario, giggle. Worst case scenario, you get flamed. So it seems like the risk-reward situation that Aaron Rodgers is dealing with and the one that you're dealing with, he's a lot smarter than you and maybe a lot more honest than you. I don't know. He might be more honest.
If Chris Collinsworth wants to come at me, just know that I'm ready. I'm ready for you, Collinsworth.
Oh, man.
I just love that it took 2 minutes of Domonique being back this Monday for him to immediately start going at Pablo's head again. This show was way too nice last week.
I know.
Even though Pablo did say the F word 2 minutes into last week's show.
But see, it feels to me like I want to be the nice guy that I am away from this show.
Yeah, you have your sweater vest zip, quarter zip, nice guy clothes on.
Yeah, this is real nice guy clothes I got on. I want to be, and I've made a conscious effort to try to be nicer to Pablo, but I've come to realize when I was away that I need to be here. You need me on that wall. If there's not somebody to smack Pablo down every now and then, he gets carried away. And he says things like, I'm a bottom to start the show, which I noticed happened last week. And he also says things like F words on air. These are things that Pablo does if I'm not here for him to have that slight bit, it's just a second thought. You need somebody to, you go across the middle and
it's a healthy fear.
Extend.
It's a healthy fear.
Hey, somebody might hit me. When I'm not here, there's no safety. There's no safety to scare Pablo into running his routes quickly.
My only regret is that I didn't call myself a power in front of the noun that you said that I should not say.
Now you're scared to say it again?
Totally. Well, I'm trying to respect.
He's got the healthy fear now.
Gojo, I'm trying to
healthy fear into him. He came across the middle, and you absolutely laid him out. We are going back 10 years and doing jacked up after this.
I don't want to hurt you. I just want to remind you that it ain't safe in here. It gets hot.
Which is an ironic message from a guy. Is that a manger over your shoulder? I thought I was supposed to find safe harbor at your particular inn. When I'm in need, wandering the night, wandering the desert for hospitality.
Whoa. You sound like you was reading some New Testament. I'm all about the Old Testy, baby. I live in the Old Testy. In the Old Testy, it gets real. We don't stand for all this forgiveness. We gotta
get away from this before Pablo goes somewhere with Old Testy that we don't need him to.
Guys, I am already there.
I'm
already there. I just want to congratulate Domonique on being the oldest testy on today's show. That's all I wanted to say.
And the most effective, too. 3 kids.
Yeah, prolific. Threading all sorts of needles that probably should be sewn shut on your end, specifically.
Get us out of here, Alabaster.
Welcome to Debatable.
I'll be in New York in a few hours.
That got me afraid.
I'll be in New York in a few hours.
That got me afraid. Welcome to Debatable. It's a fake television show where we debate nothing. Alabaster, where are we starting
Domonique.
Today?
That's Pablo. That's Gojo.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Yeah. Still shook. Too shook to introduce ourselves.
We are going to start with the best game from yesterday. And our question is, should the Bills feel more or less confident after their overtime loss to the Bucs?
So should we advise the Bills as a friend of the Bills or as a rational observer? Because if they're our friend, I feel like the answer should be to tell them to be less confident, right? Think about the story of the Bills this season. Everybody expected so much from them. And it started off great. And then they went through a patch where they could not beat anybody who is good. And now in this particular game, it seemed like everybody was jumping off the bandwagon until Josh Allen became, yes, look at that card right there, one of the 4 people in NFL history to have 300 yards passing and 100 yards rushing, joining Russell Wilson, Cam Newton, and who's the other guy?
Lamar.
Oh, Lamar
Jackson.
Lamar Jackson, yes. So at that point, it feels like this could be framed, because they lose to Tom Brady in overtime, this could be framed as a moral victory. But I feel like life's a lot easier if you just expect less of yourselves, Buffalo Bills, at this point. Like, you'll have a lot more fun if you don't think you're going to beat Tom Brady anymore.
Well, they had trouble beating good teams. That's understandable. I think we really got concerned when they had trouble scoring on the Jacksonville Jaguars and lost 9-6. Like, that was when we all kind of looked around like, oh, this could be a problem. But I do think that it's hard to take anything from games like that when it's like a tale of two halves, because obviously the game plan changes. Everything changes about how a team approaches a game when they're down by a ton or when they're up by a ton. And in the second half, we saw that the Bills at least have whatever it takes. Honestly, they have Josh Allen is what it came down to, is they have Josh Allen. And that is enough to give you confidence. The Josh Allen that they had the Josh Allen from last year, to be fair. The 1 year that Josh Allen had where he was MVP good, he shows up. That guy shows back up every now and then, and he showed up for the second half last night. And I think that should give them some confidence, given how kind of wishy-washy, I guess, the AFC feels as a whole, is if you have a guy who can take over in a game in a defense that we thought was really good, and I still think, despite some injuries, it's still pretty good. Yeah, I think they have a shot. They have a shot, and they should feel confident, assuming they make the playoffs.
Yeah, there are like 1,000,706 teams, Gojo. Everybody's still alive in the playoff field.
It's all just like one big weird bit of like primordial AFC soup in the middle of this playoff picture. And Josh Allen might crawl on.
You got to add that to our list of words you say when you want to sound smart. Anyway, go ahead.
I would go ooze after primordial instead of soup, but otherwise no notes. Yeah.
Okay.
I am excited that Pablo first off said no notes right after giving me notes, and a word that he's for sure going to introduce back into the show later on here now, because we put it in his head. So you guys get ready to play Pablo Bingo at home. Primordial is for sure going to come out. He's going to add soup to it. It's going to be right there. So that is what you got to look forward to. And you know what? I can understand where this question comes from, because we did this exact thing with the Cowboys coming off of opening night. Remember, the Cowboys played a real close game and ultimately end up losing to Tampa. Right. But the time of year matters, and also I think what you say matters in these spots. You can't be in the, this is a good sign for us more than halfway through the season. And hearing Josh Allen say that, like, Pablo, they have set the bar, apparently, where you believe it should be for this Bills team here. If they're looking at it and saying, you know what, we're encouraged by how we played in this game, because that shouldn't be enough based on the way this team came into this season expecting to finally get over that Patriot hump. So I'm confident for all the reasons Domonique said. Like, this is kind of becoming the same situation as Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, where if Superman busts out his cape, you got a chance every week because your quarterback's one of the handful on earth that is physically gifted enough to be able to pull off the impossible. But you saw his toe get banged up at the end of this, and there is anything physically compromising Josh Allen, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that's the parallel that I think your Lamar Jackson illusion would cause to be really, really like panic-inducing, right? Like, Josh Allen showed up at the press conference after this game in a walking boot. And I know he had 100 yards rushing, led the team in rushing. Bills running backs, as Alabaster points out here via paper card, only had 7 carries. And so if that guy is in fact going to be hampered, if he's going to be limping through the rest of the season, then I would say your confidence meter should be at a nice big 0.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's just a cautionary boot, because he finished the game, unlike Lamar Jackson, who we know that the Ravens were in trouble because of injuries before that game, but now Lamar's not able to finish the game, and he got driven into the bowels of the stadium on one of those carts. That's scary. I know we're not here to talk about the Ravens, but that does kind of play into the Bills scenario, because who are they scared of in the AFC playoffs, like right now? And I know we can put holes in everything that the Bills do, but you could say that they're concerned about the Patriots, who I don't know that we learned a lot from that game that they played against the Patriots, where the wind was blowing at high levels. But I know the Patriots will be tough for them, but there's nobody else in the AFC that I think they can't match up with. KC's coming around pretty well, but as bad as the Bills have looked throughout this season,
They did beat the
shouldn't be
Chiefs,
concerned. Yeah, they did beat the Chiefs, a different version of the Chiefs, before the 85 Bears showed up to play defense.
Yeah, Gojo, well, the precautionary boot or the cautionary boot? How many types of boots are there?
Precautionary.
Because there's,
I mean,
okay.
that's the Ben Roethlisberger boot, where you want everyone to know that, like, hey, I'm out here.
A
getting
vanity
after
boot?
it, but yeah,
the LeBron wrist cast. You remember that?
Yes.
That's a nice little storyline. What is it, a MacGuffin? That's what it is.
Oh,
dropping.
you know what it is? It's a narrative.
Someone's
boot.
been working in Hollywood.
This is a narrative boot. This all of a sudden starts to feed into the Josh Allen toughness narrative.
It's Chekhov's boot, right? If you reveal the boot, you must fire the
cat?
boot.
Is it
Yeah.
Schrodinger's cat?
Yes. What's inside the boot if you never see?
It's Schrodinger's toe.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
So it's not actually broken unless you look at it to discover whether it's broken or not. In which place, it splits off the two different realities. In one reality, they win the Super Bowl. In the other, they do not.
Wait, what if it's Gojo? What if it's just Occam's boot?
Ooh,
what if it's just simply a boot because he's hurt? The simplest theory is the simplest boot.
What if it's Murphy's boot? What can go wrong will go wrong.
Wait, speaking of which, I believe that we are also...
no, he's still thinking.
Oh, yeah.
We hit him with a question, and one of those questions...
No, it's Gojo's boot. It's Gojo's boot. He's just taking a real long time to process all of the available information before coming back at us with his own theory. I think I broke his brain with the splitting of the timelines into a multiverse. I think the multiversal boot is something that I was not prepared for and still am not, because you're right. In one universe, Josh Allen is totally healthy. In another, he is destroyed. Which one are we living in? I don't know.
I mean, the Schrodinger's cat theory suggests that every event, there's potential that the opposite of that event could happen, which could lead to a forking in timelines that creates a scenario or creates scenarios where everything has happened or there are enough scenarios to cover every possible outcome, which means there's an outcome where football doesn't even exist. That's a world I could not live in.
No, we can't be in a post-football world. It's a very existential concern for all of us.
I mean, the primordial ooze would be leaking out of my ears if we lived in an existential post-football world. It'd be so sad.
Yeah, no. I mean, Alabaster, what do you make of all of this soup?
I'm just very sad that you missed the opportunity to say it was Toedinger's boot.
Oh,
wow. Oh, man. And wait, guys, thanks for stalling while I was in technical difficulties. Did any of us bring up Rex Ryan in this? Because we're allowed to do that. He said it this morning on TV.
No, recap for people who missed it. Yeah.
What did Rex do?
Rex Ryan was on Get Up this morning, and when they were talking about Aaron Rodgers' toe, he said, as a toe expert, and I thought Ryan Clark was going to keel over and walk off set. So now that Rex is out there, freaky toe stuff's on the table here. We can bring him on to talk about Toedinger's boot.
Hold on. Now that Rex is out there? Well,
I mean, I feel bad because he's our teammate, and so if this is something he's okay with, now I feel better.
Rex Ryan and shame and Rex Ryan are not two things that go together. You cannot embarrass that man. He has said and done many things publicly that suggest to me that everything is fair game for Rex Ryan. Who was the coach for the Bills, right? Wasn't he? Did they do anything when he was there? I know he likes to fight with the Jets coach about.
Yeah. Well, no, they made up now.
Oh,
they did the classic male fight thing where they hate each other, and then I think they got on the phone and yelled at each other, probably threw a punch, had a couple of beers, and now they're like, I love that guy. Guy fights.
That's so great.
I just Google imaged Rex Ryan foot to find an appropriate visual accompaniment. And it's hard, Domonique, because I don't know what is from reality and what's just a weird, explicit, X-rated parody version of this.
I think they're all real. And again, we're back to Toedinger's boot right now. They're all real and they're all fake. There's a reality that exists where all those pictures you're looking at actually took place.
Yeah.
Help,
Shout
Alabaster,
out to the Ryan
help.
family.
All right. We're going to
You'll
move
never
on
yuck
to
your
another
yum.
coach who's definitely never done anything inappropriate.
Oh,
Should the
gosh.
Jaguars
Ooh.
fire Urban Meyer
Oh,
before the
God.
season ends?
Honestly, feet would be refreshing if that was the only thing he'd done.
Can I vote no on this immediately?
Oh, wow.
Like, and I say that entirely self-interestedly.
Oh.
If you are on the
Ah.
Jaguars, sure, the answer is yes. But if you're a person who talks about the Jaguars, the answer has to be no. I mean, look at what we're getting from Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network. He's reporting that Urban Meyer has now famously told assistant coaches that he is a winner and they are losers, something that Jay Glazer reported in confirmation on Sunday. And then he challenged them to explain why their resumes are the way they are and what if they really won, which is just delightful maniac behavior.
Didn't he hire them? Like, presumably
Yeah.
he brought in his staff of people that are winners. Like, that seems really odd to just like.
Why
turn
don't
on
you
your
tell
whole
me about my
family.
resume?
Yeah.
Because you saw it and agree that it was worth hiring.
Yeah, I would not insult the DNA of my children. Like, I mean, I know that like the part that comes from me, pretty great. The part that comes from the partner that I chose, pretty great. Like, it seems to me like he's turning on that he made and is kind of indicting himself in the process.
Yeah, I like how
Yeah.
you put you and Ashley in a 1A, 1B scenario there. But Gojo, you proceed.
Oh, it's no
Yeah,
1A, 1B.
What is it?
Oh, you know what it is.
I want you to say the right order here.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Look,
It's-
we all know how good Domonique's ooze is.
it's wife, children, cat we're gonna get in a couple weeks. Then you're born.
Oh,
Yeah.
congrats! I didn't know you were
Yeah,
a
I'm
cat.
excited about this cat.
Oh,
Somebody
yes.
might treat me with respect around here.
That is Dominique.
real-
Like, I don't.
Domonique's cat. Yeah, let alone
Yeah.
Schrodinger's.
Ah, how about that? If you're getting into a shouting match with Marvin Jones,
Oh,
I was talking
how
to
about
someone-
that? That's funny. I'm sorry. I just like how Gojo gave you that dismissive, like, that's a good teammate right there. I'm going to point out that what you said there, Pablo, was garbage, and Gojo's your man. Oh, how about that?
Yeah. Very, very, very Marvin Jones of you, as Marvin Jones apparently is never the type of guy, Gojo, to get in a screaming match with Urban Meyer, to your point.
No, everyone says he's like the nicest guy on earth. If you've lost that guy, like, I mean, we've seen like, and now we're getting to the point where you can see every picture that comes out of Jags camp through the tinge of Urban Meyer's failure. Like we saw that, what was it? A picture of them before the game where everyone's supposed to be locking arms. And it's like Marvin Jones and James Robinson on either side trying to be as far away as humanly possible. And that could just be when the picture was taken. They could have been swaying side to side and he could have come undone because Urban Meyer lacks rhythm inside his very melaninless skin. But all those things could have been possible. But instead, because of what's going on with him this entire time, we're going to assume it's because everyone hates him. And we're probably right.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine. You pointed out he's melaninless, and I can't
Yeah.
imagine.
We're
that-
currently 0 for 7 on pronouncing melanin
Yeah.
correctly, incidentally, but keep going.
Oh man, I was
1 for 8
working my way
after
up
me.
to something too, and I'm really disappointed in myself because I had something good in my head, and that's why I tripped on melanin because I was in a race to get to this line. Now you let me know if this line was going to be great. No one wants to work for Urban Meyer because he's a palm-colored tyrant. Huh?
Yep. No.
It's a
Yep.
good-
See, for the
it's a-
podcast listener,
it's
for
a
the
good
podcast listener, we're all holding our palms to the camera, just so you understand what's happening here.
When he said melaninless, I mean
Yeah.
palm-colored tyrant jumped into my head, and so as
That is a
the
great
only team that is owned by someone who is not palm-colored in Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm not sure why they need to keep him. Not because of how he looks, but mostly because of the results. Like I learned a while ago that I used to think like this stuff that we did on TV doesn't really matter that much, and maybe what we're doing right now doesn't. But when we're talking about how bad a coach is or a coach needs to be fired, it impacts their situation. And coaches do get fired in part because the media has turned on them. So like I try to be very careful with calling for people to be fired or anything like that, but it's hard to make a case for Urban Meyer to keep his job. He has no success. Although he considers himself a winner, he has no NFL success to point to. So you can't say, oh, he knows what he's doing. Just be patient. He has no success this year to point to. The coaches don't like him. The players seem to not like him that much. The fans are not in support. And they got the number 1 overall best quarterback in the draft in the past decade. And he stinks. So, like, what are you pointing to say, let's keep Urban Meyer around? It's going to get better.
No, it's the Trevor Lawrence question to me, right? Like, Trevor Lawrence already recently came out and called out Urban Meyer, right? I think it's fascinating that Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback Domonique obviously alluded to there, is already the most powerful person in this building, right? Part of that's because the bar is so low because Urban Meyer is as unpopular as we've outlined. Also, it's because he's the guy who's going to be here longer than everybody else, we presume. So the question is, when does that guy use his voice to call out the guy that everybody seemingly wants out? And he just did it because he wasn't running James Robinson at all. And in this game, kind of did something close to that again, right? Misusing his players, misusing the depth on his team at running back. And you add the fact that Trevor Lawrence, like, look, when Chip Kelly was making an embarrassment of himself in Philly, right, as the college to NFL alleged genius coach guy, at the very least, he got performances out of like Nick Foles, right?
Yeah,
if you get Trevor Lawrence, right? and they're better than I remember. I think that's also fair to say. But if you get Trevor Lawrence and he looks worse, I mean, just worse and worse, it's a problem, man. And a real, like, there is a ticking clock sort of a way, Gojo.
Well, yeah, and the card that Alabaster just put up here is, to me, the most apt one. What decision has he made along the way that shows you he has earned the right to make more decisions for you? Like, especially at this level. To Domonique's point, this reeks of David Blatt in Cleveland all those years ago when he wanted respect he thought he was deserved based on accomplishment somewhere else. You got to come and earn that respect in this league. You have not done that.
You call it Ohio State Russia? Man.
David Blatt coached in Russia? He didn't coach in a European league or something?
Yeah, I thought that
I believe he was
else,
I thought he was like the greatest coach in Russia. Let me double check that.
Oh yeah, the strength coach was bad. Special teams coordinator bad.
It's all just embarrassing. And to the Trevor Lawrence point in here, he's stunk in large part because they have done nothing structurally around him to help and develop this. And at some point, this is like what we talked about before. People expect stuff out of you because they did put the resources into that top overall pick. And you used the second resource in the first round for a running back that hasn't played it down this season because of injury. How are you going to maximize that number 1 overall pick? Like, if you're Shad Khan, you owe this to Trevor Lawrence. You have invested a lot in him. That's how these franchises work up top of the quarterback spot. Urban Meyer has done nothing but come in here and be corrosive to everything involved in your organization. I don't see any reason to keep him around any longer than you already have right now. You're wasting time on whatever your organization's future can be.
Yeah, so just quick cleanup on David Blatt. Coached in Russia and in Israel. Apologize to David
Israel
Blatt
is
for
the
that.
one.
Yeah. But Domonique, it does feel like Shad Khan in all of his glorious mustachioedness. It does feel like he is like curiously and conspicuously patient.
Nice.
Like, he will sit there with a bad head coach. He has done this already before.
Yeah. I mean, sitting there with a bad head coach is one thing, who just is coaching poorly. But sitting there with a bad head coach who is coaching poorly and also embarrassing you publicly, like, that to me seems like at least don't be the laughing stock. Like, he has the off the field concerns that we can take that along with some performance. Or you can struggle on the field, and at least we can be proud of you and say, look, we're headed in the right direction. It takes time. This is a man of integrity. He knows what he's doing. I do think that one of the things that I've talked about in the past when it comes to hiring coaches is we don't have some coaching pipeline where you are being prepared for being an NFL coach. Like, being an NFL coach is very different from even being an NFL coordinator. But being an NFL coach is worlds different from being a college coach. So the idea that we assume because someone was able to succeed in college that they're going to succeed in NFL, I understand it's worth a shot, but at the level of commitment that they gave to Urban Meyer, that's the part that's confusing to me. I guess that's what you had to pay to get him to come out, but they seem really like their sunk costs. Ooh, it's going to be steep if they fire him. They got to trick that man into quitting or something.
Well, I was going to say, Gojo, it does feel like the theory now, because things are so bad, is that Urban Meyer is just Costanzaing he is like daring them to fire him so he can collect his full
keep us young. I
payout.
like it. Way to keep us young, Pablo.
Yeah, exactly. All the kids out there streaming this, listening to podcasts, you know about Seinfeld. It's a show that existed 35 years ago.
Costanzing. I think you got to explain to them what it is. To people.
Yeah, where George Costanza is working for the Yankees and he's driving around with the World Series trophy tied to the bumper of his car, like daring George Steinbrenner, the owner of the team, to can him on purpose.
I knew that.
And it does feel like this is the closest thing, though, that we can get to that in the NFL.
I'm really glad you explained that to the listeners.
Yeah.
The listeners who had no idea what that reference was from a show they've definitely seen. Because we all knew that here, especially Domonique, who 100%.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's terrible. We out here Khadijah-ing. That's the original Seinfeld.
Wow.
Damn. Open your third eye.
I'll just let that sit there for a second while no one figures out what's going on except for the real ones.
Yep.
I'm not a real one. I'm a
Overton? No?
Overton's boot?
Kyle?
Oh.
No? These names,
Overton window.
These names don't mean anything to you.
Going back to the boot bit.
Yeah,
you don't know Kyle. You don't know Overton. You don't know Khadijah. Regine. No? You don't know Regine?
Yeah. Oof.
Oh,
feels like
I can't wait till people get in your mentions. Get in the mentions.
Yeah. What statistic was it? The 8%.
Thank you for cyberbullying us, Domonique. Really appreciate that.
That's all right. What are we talking about? Costanza?
Alabaster. Can you save us?
Yeah. You know it's bad when Gojo calls for the save.
Honestly, I am done. I have nothing.
Do you guys trust me? Do you trust me?
Yes.
Trust me that 13% really appreciated those last 60 seconds. I promise you. Just trust me. We'll move on to the next topic, but the show ain't always for you. Sometimes it's for the backhand side, not the
I Googled Khadijah, and I don't think any of the things that came up on my search.
I also love that Alabaster is fully hanging us out to dry on this right now, too.
It's terrible.
Like, he's just letting this sit
Alabaster is
right
the special teams coordinator who worked for Urban Meyer, who just left and never came back. Which is a thing that was on one of those cards, by the way.
Yeah.
That just happened to the Jaguars. He just disappeared.
So you guys ready for the next topic?
I don't know.
Okay, next one. What's the bigger story coming out of the Chiefs' blowout win? Their offense or their defense?
Gojo?
I was looking to see in my mentions. Oh, it's Living Single. Oh.
I knew that. I was just playing along for the bit.
The original friends.
I also knew that.
The original friends, Living Single.
Which is a thing I've often said. I'm sure I tweeted that at some point. That Living Single is the original friends.
It was.
Just wanted to put a lot of my palm-colored folks on game. So.
I think it came out like a month before Friends or something like that. But anyway, the point is the defense. I like the defense more. I'm more impressed. They are the second best defense since week 6 by DVOA. They're incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's ridiculous.
It's been impressive. I've never seen a turnaround like that for one unit in the course of the season. I think what they're doing a lot now that is kind of impressive is putting more DBs on the field. You can't go wrong with more DBs on the field. It gives you coverage flexibility. It gives you blitz flexibility. It gives you a lot more flexibility than you have in other scenarios, and particularly Juan Thornhill, the safety who, as a rookie, was outstanding. Then he got hurt, and they kind of pivoted in another direction, and that other direction got burned a lot. And now,
wait, are we referring to our palm-colored brother, Daniel Sorensen? Is that what we're doing?
I can say,
I love Daniel Sorensen.
Of pick 6 fame from the last game.
Yeah, how dare you?
Oh, no, I love Daniel Sorensen.
The old adventures of the new Daniel Sorensen.
Daniel Sorensen. No, even the old Daniel Sorensen. You remember that Super Bowl run? He was making all the big plays in the playoffs. He is not a guy who is just garbage, but he's a guy that would thrive in a Belichickian system where they don't ask you to do things that you're not good at doing. The problem was they were asking him to do things that he's not good at doing. Now they put him in what is essentially like a linebacker's position now, and now he's a super athletic linebacker as opposed to a safety who is a coverage liability. And they have Juan Thornhill back who can play man coverage in the back end and kind of replace Tyrann Mathieu in some scenarios as the do-it-all safety.
I'm glad you explained why you thought he would work so well in Coach Belichick's system. Because
Yes. No, I'm
thought
not.
that was going to be a
No,
different
no.
conversation.
I'm not saying he's a Paul.
That's right.
I'm not saying he's a slot receiver. That's different. That's entirely different. He doesn't have the quickness to play a slot receiver. Belichick's secondary though. Nah, that's.
Yeah,
Hold
that
on, I'm
is
Googling.
true.
Belichick's
I'm Googling
secondary.
did
Belichick's
Daniel
secondary.
Sorensen play
Belichick's
lacrosse?
secondary got the reference.
Yes, they did. They certainly grew up on Singled Out. I mean, Singled Out. Living Single. Not Singled Out. That show also was funny.
I'm very familiar with that show. Great show.
As am I, for sure. Domonique, I also have been wondering this question because you talked about the secondary. Was it the team or was it Chris Jones that wanted him to play DN so bad? Like, what was that? When we look back in the annals of history, what are we going, and Pablo, don't say anything about that. What are we going to do with the notion that they wanted to force this square peg into an offensive end hole for so long here? I don't understand.
I mean, you're telling me not to do anything with that, and you're dropping annals and squeezing square
just
pegs
saying,
into
Pablo,
round
you
holes. You
can't
want
do that
me
to
to do
Pablo.
nothing with that?
That's torture to Pablo.
Not all holes are the same
Good
here, Pablo, all
Lord.
right? Like, we just
Torturing
gotta
Pablo.
understand that some are DN and some are D-tackle shape. And that for some reason, they felt like just shoving this one into the DN hole in a way that didn't make sense for so long.
Yeah, never do that. Guys,
Never do that.
Coaches, never do it. So my guess is somebody like Chris Jones was on board with this or pushing for it, because I could imagine that playing interior line is a lot less fun than playing on the edge.
Yeah.
But I know that like bringing in Ingram allows them to slide him back down inside where he's most effective. I don't know. It's hard for me to determine whose bad idea it was, but my guess is like all football analytics that we all point to, and I'm sure that they are well aware of, would suggest that pressure up the middle better than pressure around the edge. You can't step up if someone is pushing the pocket in front of you. But pressure is better than no pressure. So I don't know how they got to the conclusion that putting Chris Jones on the edge was good for them. But luckily they figured out that he is most effective going straight up the gut, and he's doing it now and giving quarterbacks a lot of trouble, which I mean, I can't figure it out. I don't know who thought it was a good idea at any point. I know sometimes Aaron Donald moves out to the edge on occasion, but on key downs, get up in there and make something happen right in the quarterback's face.
I do love the notion that we needed analytics to tell us that pressure up the middle is good and that pressure is better than no pressure. Like we sat around here, we ran simulations. I did over 10,000. I've been putting 10 years of data into this.
To be completely fair, we didn't do any of that. Analytics just falls in the category of words that make you sound smart. So I just threw that in there.
Oh, it's like primordial.
Yeah, the same thing. I just threw it in there because you don't need analytics to do all that. I just said analytics because people are going to think that I'm well read now because I said analytics like 5 times.
Yeah,
in
you're
2
like
minutes.
you're like the reverse Boomer Esiason. Yeah, you're throwing out analytics that seem smarter, as opposed to him, who was throwing out analytics and looking like a total moron.
Oh, Boomer.
Oh,
Do people know that reference? I mean, it went viral, I guess, but basically, like, yeah, John Harbaugh's explaining, like, why did he go for 2 down 9? And there's this explanation that he gives in that video, and you go back to the desk, and it's just like all of these dudes being like, I don't know what analytics is, but I think it's a spreadsheet, and it's dumb.
I will not stand for Boomer slander. It's a fine terrapin right there, that Boomer.
Oh, there it is. Yep. Just you and Boomer hanging out in your quarter zips, of course.
okay.
The
Boomer.
Terp Illuminati, Alabaster. That's where we are now on this show.
All right. Well, I think it's time to play a game.
I don't like attitude. Was he like this all last week, or is it just when
I
I
feel
show
like
up?
I feel like he's whispering to the other people in the room, talking about us, as opposed to being active with us.
So was
That
he
felt
was
like
he
a
like
jump
this
pass
last
from
week?
him.
Is it me or is it him all the time?
he's afraid of you.
So
He's definitely afraid of you.
that
Not
was
afraid,
actually
just
asked
like
last
mean.
week. If I
What's
felt
that?
more comfortable without you mocking me for an entire week.
I'm not
And-
mocking. I'm
But
just
it's-
encouraging.
No, Dominique, see, this is all the time under task with you. Again, you are the healthy fear in this show.
That's all I got to
Everyone involved except for me, because I know why.
You don't need it. You're motivated.
Yeah.
You're self-motivated. I like that. I don't
Yeah.
want to be that. Like, I don't want to be the one who's viewed as this mean tyrant, but like we feed off of energy. And then Alabaster comes in, we're leaking confidence because like who knows, we're flailing around from topic to topic, and we're like looking for something. And Alabaster, All right,
Yeah.
want to play a
Now,
game.
now,
Just
now
sucks
we're
it
a
out of me.
podcast. He feels
Yeah.
extra pressure to go and perform and make sure that it's good for people. I get it.
Can I
Let's
try
go,
again?
Alabaster.
Can I
Let's
try
play a
again?
game.
Can I try again?
Yes, please.
Yes.
It's time to
Ooh.
play a game.
Hot dog.
And that game is What Are the
Yeah.
Chances?
Woo!
We'll give you
man.
a topic.
That
You tell us
energy.
the chances.
Like that energy.
First one.
Back.
What are the chances Quinn Ewers' commitment means Texas is back?
Oh, nothing like a good "are they back" question to get off the energy schneid. Gojo, can you explain who Quinn Ewers is and why this would be a thing that people care about?
First question.
Yes.
Who that?
So Quinn Ewers was a big-time #1 overall recruit high school prospect in the class of 2022. So he was supposed to be in high school still this fall. He played high school football down in Texas, where their high school athletic association prohibited high school players from monetizing their name, image, and likeness the way that we had seen for their college counterparts. And Quinn Ewers wanted to stick it to them so badly that he decided to reclassify. He was committed to Ohio State. He was one of 3 5-star quarterbacks either currently on the roster or committed to Ohio State. And so he decided to reclassify as the class of 2021, enroll in Ohio State this fall going into this season, and collect on what I believe was 7 figures of NIL money almost immediately, and then promptly walked into a quarterback room where C.J. Stroud was the quarterback that had beat out Heisman Trophy winner Bryce Young at the Elite 11 camp.
Right.
And then he went on to start the entire season. So now, of course, this dude's not going to play. C.J. Stroud got invited to New York for the Heisman, and so now he has gone back and committed to Texas, back in the home state that he is originally from.
So I just want to know. Actually, I don't want to ask that question. Go ahead, Pablo.
No, I was gonna say, so like this is a real like one man's trash is another man's treasure, or no? Is it a sloppy seconds, or no? What kind of a like a regifting scenario is this, or is it just a market inefficiency?
This is the exact thing that the portal was designed for, because remember, like, we had this like QB, like, I don't know what the right word would be for this one, but like jettison out of quarterback rooms because you had all these guys backed up. You went a couple of years ago, Exodus. Justin Fields was backing
Old
up
Testament.
Jake Fromm, and now he ended up at Ohio State. You had Joe Burrow that was backing up a quarterback at Ohio State, ends up at LSU. Like, that's what's going to happen at this Ohio State quarterback room that is chock full of talent that's now going to probably all sit behind C.J. Stroud, who was a freshman playing this year and played really well.
To the original question, I was going to ask, so who gonna make up this money for him? Because we got to get that. But I don't want to draw any attention to anybody. But get that man paid, please.
Oh, Texas. Yeah, Texas is going to do that. Yeah.
Texas NIL money is going to be a big, big selling point, I think, here in the near future.
So to be clear, high school in Texas means you can't monetize NIL.
Yeah,
they are
until
sort of
you get to college, then you can.
In college, though, they're going to make it rain all over your head.
Nice.
Yes.
Outstanding. Good for them.
And this kid's really freaking good too.
Yeah.
Like, very like freaky arm talent. So the couple that with Sark's offense, and like Texas isn't going to be back on this alone, but this is a pretty big like trending towards back move.
Numbers.
All right,
We gotta
Gojo.
do numbers.
Yeah, what are you
Respect
giving?
the
What are you
man's
giving,
game.
Gojo?
Oh, I'll go 65% back on this, just because I think like Sark is still a really talented play caller. They're going to get down the stretch of the season, Bijan Robinson, who might be the best running back in college football when he's healthy, was dinged up at the end of the season, and he's, I believe, going to be back. He was a true sophomore this year for them. So you combine those two in that offense, and I think you've got the makings of some pretty special stuff.
I mean, I'm thinking I'm going to go 65% because I think that this Quinn Ewers guy is incredible arm, outstanding, freakish talent, and you combine him with my homie Bijan in the backfield, we're looking at a really impressive Texas unit. So they're not fully back, but they're about 65% there.
So
and Sark,
I guess
playing coach and stuff too.
Okay, so Domonique just said literally everything Gojo said. Noted. I'm going to go with 64%. Price is Right rules. Because I was told that Spencer Rattler was like supposed to be this, and then he was terrible. And another guy I'd never heard of was better than him. So this is me being throw cold water on the recruiting industrial complex guy. Only 64% Quinn Ewers.
When do they move to the SEC? When does that happen?
Not for another couple years.
Okay. Whew.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be
Man,
this is like an MCU rollout. Like we're talking about like 5 sequels into the future. We wasted so much time theorizing about that. It's gonna be like in what 2030.
So my oldest daughter is really into all the Marvel stuff. So we see all the shows and the movies and whatever. And so we have we're going to see the new Spider-Man, and she showed me a trailer for another Spider-Man that's coming out in 2022.
Yeah.
And
Spider-Verse?
This Spider-Man ain't even out yet. Like you gotta at least let one Spider-Man get out. Which I guess the Spider-Verse isn't a part of the MCU, but you got to let one Spider get out before you start advertising the next Spider.
Yeah, right? No, there's a real Pimp My Ride exhibit dynamic where it's, hey, we heard you like Spider-Man, so we put some Spider-Man in your Spider-Man so you can Spider-Man. Another reference that kids will definitely understand.
You beat me to it.
Yeah, very good.
Do you think the kids know who Exhibit is or Pimp My Ride?
I feel like Exhibit was like, I feel like they used that Pimp My Ride meme format enough to where kids might know him as the guy from the meme, but probably have no idea what the show is.
You know what I think is funny is that I'm concerned about you making references that kids won't get, as if there are some kids who are like, man, there's 15-year-old kids can't wait to catch those olds talking about football on the internet.
No, I'm wearing a t-shirt, Domonique. I'm automatically a cool young person. I don't know if you noticed that.
Quarter zip makes me not cool.
Me and Domonique look like ops, I think. Is that the right term?
Yes, we are the ops.
I only remember that because I think one time Kyler Murray called Mina an op in a comment, and I had to ask her what that meant.
And after she looked it up, did she tell you?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that was a real bummer in Asian American sports media history for Mina. Highlight for me, to be honest.
Took a step back in the rankings?
Well, it was her birthday, and the Cardinals, because they wanted to harness her army of, I can't say the word I want to use here, so I'll say stands. The Cardinals Twitter account @Cardinals was like, hey, happy birthday, Mina Kimes. And Kyler Murray got in the replies being like, she's an op. What are we doing here?
She is. She quite literally is opposition. She's a noted Seahawks fan and Ramley member. So, like, there are no other teams. I guess she could join. She is a Shanna stan, too.
Oh,
so
that's right. Wow.
She is. She's the unholy trinity there.
Yeah, she hates everything about that place, but except for Kyler. And he's the only one who said she's an op. Poor Mina.
Yeah, triple op. She's a triple op.
Nice
Alabaster.
Job. Love the triple
Domonique, I have a question about the quarter
Hand
zip.
it to the fullback. Huh?
How many quarter zips, Crimson quarter zips, did they give you with your MBA diploma? I feel like that's a walking diploma right there.
Yeah, you get like or at the very least, one of those fleece vests.
So I want to know. What I want to know.
Oh, yeah.
What I want to know is, how do you feel about that joke, Alabaster? Because you didn't get not one laugh.
Halfway out, terrible.
Yeah, I mean,
so
Gojo didn't even give you the sympathy that he gave Pablo earlier, where he was like, oh, yeah. He didn't even give you that. He just looked blankly at the screen.
It's fun. I mean, we get this text from Alabaster in the middle of the show.
Read it out, man. Let's bring the viewer in behind the curtain here.
Yeah, let's go ahead and just
I wanted to give you the embarrassment that you were looking to generate in me, but I looked around at everyone. There's just blank face.
Yeah.
He texts us in the middle of the show and goes, I went to a wedding this weekend and sort of lost my voice. Obviously, free game to roast me for it. Like, he's asking for it. He's asking to be bullied by Domonique on this show.
I mean, I never saw the text.
This is the worst case of Stockholm syndrome I have ever seen.
I was just being me. This text is news to me. I was not roasting you. And so you had a wedding. What were you doing? Were you like cheering? Was it a wedding at a sporting event? Like, how do you lose your voice at a wedding?
Sweet Caroline on repeat,
how do you
maybe.
lose your voice at a wedding?
I mean, what are you doing? Are you officiating this wedding?
Drinking and smoking.
Have you ever heard shout?
I mean, you don't lose your voice for that. No, we don't play shout at my weddings. Nobody plays that. Yeah, hands up. Like, no, that's not a thing.
That's not how shout goes.
Yeah. Drinking and smoking, like lots of people drink and smoke and they don't lose their voices. I don't know. You were officiating the wedding over a stadium full of people cheering or something. I don't know.
Real talk.
I'm actually with Alabaster on this one. You clearly haven't weddinged hard enough if you've never walked back on Monday without your voice.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I once crashed the wedding reception of a wedding that Gojo was at. in Brooklyn. Like, I want to say, like, maybe like 5 years ago around this time, Gojo, I just remember being freezing. I was so cold standing outside doing things that are obviously very legal. And Gojo walks out, and were you shirtless or shirt open? What was it? You're like Enrique Iglesias-ing at the very least.
Yeah. I was glistening. I had gone to the tried and true mid-20s wedding move of the tie situated around the head to let everyone know that I have transitioned out of just the normal reception mode, and now I'm starting to will us into the after party mode, which is why I was out front with Pablo engaging in those very legal activities.
What time does the tie go on the head? Like around what's the average time? What's the
Usually
window
it's
for
when they play
shout?
If they play shout, you're allowed to just start undoing buttons. The tie goes on the head. That's when I got someone in an arm lock right next to me there. That's disgusting.
How many people do you tell you love them at?
Oh, there's so much hugging. How many
of your homeboys are you like? Man, I love you.
It doesn't even have to be my homeboys. Like, I'll meet people for the night, and by the end of it, it's like, man, I'm gonna text you tomorrow. Like, we're gonna hang out at the brunch after this. Like, me and you, man. I'm good to make friends with some rando at every wedding. Because you're just up at the bar, united by your common goal to get as sweaty and drunk as possible.
I mean, yes. I have not weddinged right because these are not the weddings that I've been to, and that was never my goal when I went to a wedding. Hey, to each his own.
No, I gotta say, I really enjoyed getting what I now vividly recall was a bro noogie from Mike Golic Jr., who I don't know if I had met by that point.
Gave you
but
a broogie?
Emotional, literal, all of the broogies. Yeah, it was great. Great night, Gojo.
Yeah, that was basically the first time Pablo and I had ever seen each other outside of work for any meaningful amount of time, and it all went about as you'd expect.
And you know what? Full circle. Came full circle here.
One of my wedding, one of my friends met his wife at my wedding.
Wow.
They're still together, and they have a little boy now. I love them. Broogies all around.
Aww.
It's a heartwarming story.
That was very sweet.
I mean, maybe if you have a little less to drink and keep your tie off your head, maybe, I'm saying, you might leave with something other than a brunch date with a dude the next morning. That's all. I'm just saying.
Listen, not to give up the stuff that should be for my therapist, but there are a lot of other things that are preventing that from happening that have nothing to do with the time.
That's not fair. That's not
fair.
Come
on, man.
You can't do that to me. Oh,
you can't hurt me if I do it first.
What a move. That is a crafty maneuver right there. This is a skilled dozener. Where he hit me with the 8 Mile.
I have been defending my lifelong single status for more years than I can count, Domonique. I'm not new to this. I'm true to this.
Nothing wrong with it. Enjoy that. Alabaster, say something before I get more embarrassed.
Next topic. What are the chances Desmond Howard's joke was a low blow? We got a clip for this one.
Yeah, I saw this
Love
joke.
a clip.
You know, the main mission was to come back, was to beat Ohio State and win a Big Ten championship. And
Hey, Kenny, I'm glad you're in between them. That's good.
And you know,
Please stay there.
Better than his offensive lineman.
Just
Just throw him under the bus.
Whoa, speaking of the 8 Mile metaphor, Tim Tebow jumping in as a side character just to throw some salt in the wound there. Really appreciate that aspect.
Why are football players so scary now? That man, Desmond Howard, won a Heisman. Can we play the clip again? I don't need the sound. I don't need nothing.
Great
You can give me a
observation.
screenshot. Just show what we just saw. Look at this. That man won a Heisman. These are the people who are now trying to win Heismans. That's not fair. What is going on? What are they feeding these monsters? Oh my
Lord.
I was gonna say Bryce Young's considered one of the small quarterbacks, and he still looks like up on that. I don't know, man. Aiden Hudson looks like a 35-year-old gym teacher. Like he's already got the goatee. He is one pair of white Oakleys away from realizing his dream.
Oh, Oakleys are the worst. I mean, unless they want to pay for some advertising, then I'll.
Yeah, I would wear. Remember those Oakleys that came out from the top, and you can like wear them, kind of like this. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not currently tracing.
Yes.
It was like you'd balance it on top of your head, and it would just like goggles almost.
You had
that
these.
era.
You had these.
No, I wish. Oh my
Oh my
lord, I
God.
wish.
That's terrible. Yeah, the joke was it a low blow? I mean, I don't. He's a Michigan guy. I don't think it was a low blow. It was funny. They weren't there to defend themselves. The offensive lineman, like he was kind of giving Stroud out for losing that game. It is kind of embarrassing though how high Michigan is. Their one win, in which seems like 2 decades of getting smashed by Ohio State. Now they out here making jokes, they high-fiving, kikiing on the dais. Like, y'all got 1 win in 37 attempts. Pipe down. Pipe down.
Dez and Hutchinson were up there with all the gusto of recently discovered non-fathers on Maury Povich. Like just thrilled up on that stage.
New life.
Say Alabaster, 100% was a low blow. But to Dominique's point, they needed this one. They needed this one bad, and they are going to relish in it for as long as they humanly can.
So Aiden Hutchinson had that great heat check energy of a guy who found out he's not the father on Maury Povich. CJ Stroud looked like he was one of those people who has a pickle phobia that they bring out. Like that dude wanted to run backstage. Like that was not comfortable for him at all. And part of what I love about this, by the way, and I will go, I'll go 50% on this one, Alabaster. I'll split the difference. Part of the reason I love this is that they are doing what they should do with the Heisman Trophy alumni. You guys all got to stand on this weird stage. I don't care that you could sit in the audience. I don't care that you're basically just an extra. I don't care that we could CGI you. Yeah. If you win this thing, everybody's going to gather around like it's about to be a you got served deal. And I love that.
I'm going to go 0% low blow just to cover the entire spectrum because as someone who says questionable things sometimes on television and the internet, I do not want to reprimand Desmond for anything that he has said. Like, it was entertaining. Whether it made them uncomfortable or not, I don't know. You know what's more uncomfortable than that? Getting blindside hit in the back. CJ Stroud's had that happen a few times. So, and I'm entertained by that also, as uncomfortable as that is to say. So, yes, taking a little shot here or there, it doesn't make me uncomfortable. It's fine. Everyone's going to be okay. And I love Desmond. He says lots of great things on TV. I will not bring your attention to anything that he said in recent history because I don't want to remind anybody of anything that he has ever said on College Game Day that was fan-freaking-tastic. I don't want to remind you of that. Don't Google it either.
Oh,
I love Desmond.
I know what you're referring to.
No, I'm not referring to that. Anyway, moving on. Next question.
All right, I got one more.
What do we got?
Love Desmond.
What are the
Heisman,
chances?
Super Bowl MVP, too. What a career. Outstanding. And then he looks like an elf next to all those people.
Ready for the next one?
If your energy's right.
Yeah,
Okay,
if you're up
let's
to
give it a
it.
shot. What are the chances Walker Howard remained committed to the LSU family because of Brian Kelly's dance moves?
Oh.
Well done. Well done. You
Yeah,
even snuck in
that
a
was
family. You were on fire.
well
today,
family.
Alabaster.
Can we please play this video?
Nope. I don't like this. Well, we're on podcast now, so you got to explain this, Pablo. People who are listening to us. Yeah.
You know how at like awards shows now they have like this drone camera that spins around and around to get 360-degree views of like wardrobes and stuff? Imagine instead of like Idris Elba, it's Brian Kelly and this dude Walker Howard going back-to-back Lethal Weapon style. One of them is grinding slightly. I think that's like what Walker Howard's kind of doing. He's not like really revealing himself to be a great dancer at all.
No.
But Brian Kelly is... Gojo, how do you describe what Brian Kelly's doing?
That is...
I feel like you've seen that at the weddings that you go to. Somebody is doing that move.
That is the unrefined gyrations pre-hitch of adult white males everywhere. Before they watch Will Smith's movie where they learn from their godfather and their Lord and Savior, Kevin James, that you got to stay right in the... Like, if you find every white dad over the age of 36, they're all going to be able to recite that Kevin James part from Hitch about staying right here in the pocket, not making any pizza. They got it at the party already. He's their king. And so Brian Kelly clearly has not found his Lord and Savior, Kevin James, yet.
Walker Howard. He's a quarterback, right? Obviously. I feel like this goes a long way for our podcast listeners of describing what Walker Howard looks like.
Oh, Walker Howard is absolutely a quarterback.
Yeah. I didn't know before, but I saw him. I saw his movements. I saw his stature, and that's all I saw. And I knew he was a quarterback. And I also see the name Walker Howard and think, that man is good. I don't care. You don't got to show me no film. A guy named Walker Howard, I bet he got all types of arm talent. He's got Brian Kelly by like what seems like a whole foot. How tall is Brian Kelly? Because Walker looks imposing.
Yeah,
He
Walker
does
Howard.
look imposing.
Walker Howard has, well, you know, they say Walker Howard's 6'1", 185.
Oh, so Brian Kelly's a 5'7" type of fella.
So speaking of that awards ceremony metaphor, like there is some Tom Cruise to Brian Kelly, perhaps, because that is not a great measuring stick.
Man, I tell you what, no one is more excited to get to this next fall than LSU, because they're going to have to weather the storm on this stuff. Like Brian has become the guy that every bit of content they put out with him is going to get roasted by the internet. They just got to get to the fall because he's gonna win a bunch of games. They got a bunch of talent down there, and he's going to be able to put them in a pretty good spot. But until then, it's going to be a lot of this.
Yeah, Alabaster, what do you have to say about all of this? Because you're insistently pointing at the producer interjection card.
The top Google result for Brian Kelly's height says that he is 6'3".
What?
But he's not. The next one says he's 5'9". So he's anywhere from 5'9" to 6'3".
Man.
Yeah, this is real celebrity net worth of the internet to just throw things out there.
I don't get the point in lying about that, but hey, I'm not a great football coach, so.
Brian Kelly is, Gojo, to your point, like so good at creating content for people to make fun of. And I love that. Like LSU came into this, right? LSU, and this is maybe a little inside.
I mean, their last coach
kind
of was good at that too, by the way.
Well, that's fair, but I feel like the last coach and the regime at LSU, like they have prided themselves on like, remember that like Scorsese tracking shot of Joe Burrow? Like their social media department is like very professionalized and very like Hollywood-esque. And now they're working with this dude. And I just want to see what those meetings are like now.
That's fair, because like the movies that they were putting out before, like while Ed Orgeron is not your typical leading man, there is something about him that is magnetic, and you can build a whole production around that voice, that personality, that stature, that persona. Brian Kelly ain't that. Brian Kelly is like some wheat toast that you like sprinkle some Cajun seasoning on top of it, just a little bit, and it's like, huh? Yeah? You want it?
Yes.
No.
Well, and like that's like you're feeding that breakfast to a different audience now. Like when he's done all this same similar stuff, but when you do it in South Bend, that stuff kind of plays because that's kind of our fan base. Like it's a lot of people that look and sound and feel like Brian did. And so now we dropped him in the boot, and that wheat toast doesn't play as well down here. You need a little bit of that Creole seasoning on it.
Yeah, and it's just the cheap Creole seasoning that you can buy up here. It ain't homemade Creole seasoning. It's Northeast Creole seasoning. It's like an imitation Creole. Like, I feel like there's nobody down there that can't dance except for him. Like, he's the only person in all of Baton Rouge that has to stay in the pocket.
Can you imagine Brian Kelly in like a crew, a KREWE crew, like a New Orleans sort of like parade, just like him being, all of this. I want all of this now, And by the way, Gojo, honestly, like it's a sign of progress maybe that I had forgotten that he coached at Notre Dame until you pointed it out, because I've just been swimming in the soup of all of these videos. But for you must be feeling great, man. Like just riding high on all of this.
It's a very strange space to be in right now, mostly because I've had to respond to all of like the kindness and good words said about Notre Dame, because I'm not used to that.
That's weird.
In my lifetime. I will say though, the way this is tracking, so we got the first thing, the family thing at the basketball game. We got this, which we couldn't use it because I'm sure this is a right thing, but in the video here with our friend Walker Howard, they were playing Callin' Baton Rouge in the background, which obviously big time word association song down there. The next viral video is going to be the first time that we have Brian Kelly introduced to Nick.
Yeah.
Like that's going to be when this gets weird again next.
Oh, man. So it's called a crew? I didn't know that. I just called it a parade.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm very cultured, Domonique.
You are quite cultured, except for when it comes to living single.
Yeah.
And you are bereft, I believe.
I mean,
bonus topic.
Khadijah.
You guys ready for a bonus topic? we got a good tweet here, I think.
Uh-oh.
This one comes from our friend, Long Live the Queen.
It's
Says,
not a good tweet.
If Rex Ryan were a debatable host, he'd be Mike Tolick Jr.
It's a good tweet. It's a good tweet.
That is a good
It's
tweet.
a good tweet. It's a good tweet. I like it.
Unlike
tweet.
Pablo earlier, I actually have no notes.
Oh man.
Oh,
that's
that's how we're
it?
going out.
I think we spent too much time talking about other stuff and just
Yeah, did we front load it? Did we front load a little heavy with whatever it was when we were just shouting out variations on
glad.
Schrodinger's cat?
I'm glad you said front load, because if I or Gojo said front load, you would have used these last 4 seconds to try to make something vulgar out of that. So
Yeah, I
since
would
you
have made a
said
backload
it,
joke.
yeah, you would.
Yeah.
But we're not. Now we have 2 seconds to get
Nope.
out of here with our jobs intact before you ruin it. Free us from the tyranny of Pablo's bad, inappropriate
Can you
jokes.
open your manger to us? Can we see that for the people watching? Is that door open?
No, I don't think so.
Oh. Is
This one?
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. It's a trick
Yeah.
manger. And that was a trick finish here since we're all still on camera.
Yeah, well, Pablo
right.
teased the manger, and
Oh, that's a pagan manger, Domonique.
how so?
That's a pagan manger.
Oh, because
I
there's
mean,
no
Yeah.
baby Jesus inside?